Welcome to the Focus Lounge podcast. I'm your host, Reen Diane. This is a place for real conversation, real healing, and real growth. Last week, we talked about what happens when life interrupts us. We talked about those unexpected moments that change the direction of our lives and kind of force us to confront things we may have been avoiding. Today, I want to continue that conversation because after the interruption comes, we have a choice. We can remain stuck in survival mode, or we can begin the journey towards healing and living again. Today's episode is called I've Been Surviving, Not Living. Have you ever looked up and realized you've been getting through life instead of experiencing it? You're showing up, you're going to work, and you're taking care of responsibilities. And you may even be doing things that's on your bucket list. From the outside, everything appears fine. But on the inside, something feels different. You've been so focused on making it through the day that you've forgotten what it feels like to truly live. You see, I know the feeling because I lived it. There were seasons in my life when I wasn't moving forward, I was just maintaining. And for a while, I convinced myself that survival was enough. But survival was never meant to be a permanent address for me. Sometimes life hits us in ways we never expected. And before we know it, we're carrying things we were never meant to carry alone. We learn how to smile through our struggles. We learn how to keep going, even when we're exhausted. One of the greatest lessons I've learned is that healing begins with honesty. Not pretending, but honesty. Honesty with ourselves, honesty with God. And you got to be honest about what you're truly carrying. Because we cannot heal if we're not willing to acknowledge what we're dealing with. Sometimes the most powerful words we can say to ourselves is that I forgive me. Sometimes we look at other people, but sometimes we will not let ourselves off the hook. Because when we acknowledge that life is not perfect and that we're going to have our ups and downs and our struggles, that's when we can truly heal. And that's when freedom begins, to be honest with you. We're no longer trapping ourselves in a box. But here's what I don't want you to miss. This episode is not about staying in the struggle. It's about recognizing the struggle so you can move beyond it. Because if all we do is talk about what's broken, we miss the goodness of God in the restoration. When I look back over my life, I can see seasons that felt impossible while I was living them. Seasons when I didn't understand what God was doing. Seasons when I wondered if things would ever change. Not because I had all the answers, not because I had everything figured out, but because God remained faithful. And if He was faithful then, He's still faithful now. Sometimes your day can look dark, but we have to get in a position that we are going to trust God. If you're listening today and you realize you've been surviving, I want to encourage you. There is life beyond survival. There is healing beyond the hurt. There is purpose beyond disappointment. There is joy beyond the grief. There is growth beyond the setbacks. The struggle may be a part of your story, but does not, and hear me clear, it does not get the final word. God does. And sometimes the breakthrough doesn't begin with a miracle. Sometimes it begins with a decision to trust God, to take that step of faith, a decision to believe that your best days are not behind you, a decision to stop living in the past. And don't let your story define you. Because what we're going through sometimes does not have to become our demise. God is still writing. So I got a challenge for you. Before we close, I want to leave you with one question. What area of your life have you been surviving instead of truly living? This week, don't just identify it, pray about it. Ask God to show you one step you can take towards healing, towards growth, and towards purpose. Not 10 steps, but just one step. Because momentum begins the movement. This brings me to the end of the second episode of the Focus Lounge podcast. Thank you for spending this time with me here in the Focus Lounge. If today's episode encouraged you, share it with someone who may need this as a reminder. Be sure to follow the Focus Lounge podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And remember, you may have been surviving, but you don't have to stay there. There is more for you. And with God's help, you can move forward one step at a time. I'm Rain Diane, and thank you for listening. And I'll see you next Thursday in the Focus Lounge.